Hey, sports fans! Janine here with the amazing Lianne Laing. It is Tiger Talk Tuesday. This is episode 5 for transitioning to life after sports. And a lot of people don't realize that we used to be, well, rivalries. Not in the same sport. We were just joking about the height difference here. Hockey player, gymnast. So, for those of you, most of you probably in Ottawa, but those of you around the globe that tune into this, Lianne Laing is president of the Ottawa Heart Institute Foundation and VP Philanthropy at the Ottawa Heart Institute. She's responsible for the leadership, management, and operations of the foundation and leads its campaign for cardiovascular research and precision medicine, as well as the Canadian Women's Heart Health Center. Leanne is a former elite gymnast and had a
I'm reading what you wrote. Yeah.
And had a 20-year broadcast television career with Bell Media, including 10 years as a sports anchor and then 10 years as the host of CTV Morning Live, where we met actually before when I came back to Ottawa. A passionate health and wellness advocate, she is known for her leadership, community outreach, and engagement in Ottawa and beyond. Leanne has degrees in business and sports management from the University of Massachusetts, Amherst.
Right, so UMass, UNH.
Woo! So welcome.
Thanks, it's so nice to see you.
I know. Always a pleasure. Leanne has been on some of my lives twice before. And
you were on my podcast.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So in the spirit of all things sports related, the reason why I was very passionate about bringing this series to life is because I have had some friends that have actually lost due to transitioning to life after sports. They were unable to make that transition. And I know of some friends and athletes, without naming names, that have really suffered behind closed doors in this transition. So Leanne, who is an athlete, has a really unique story. And sometimes it's not always right after your sporting career. It happens later in life. But yeah, tell us about your transition after gymnastics, a little bit what you told me before. And
so I mean, it's interesting because I was in a sport where there's an end date. As a gymnast, usually the sport loses a lot of its athletes, like especially females, like 15, 16, and off they go into other sports. I was lucky enough and committed enough that I stayed with the sport up until I was 22 because I was in the States on scholarship. So but it's a sport where that your end date is your end date. There's no like pickup gymnastics. There's no once you're done, you will never ever be able to do the sport to that level or to feel that motion or any aspect of like what it felt like, because as soon as you're done, you're done. And it was one thing, I knew I wasn't going to be able to play. You played hockey. I know when you came home from UNH, you played and there's leagues and there's things to do. So I was really prepared at that last competition, and we were at Ohio State. I knew it was my last competition. I'd been preparing for it because when I literally was in the air, I was like, try to capture this as much as you can, because as soon as you land, that will be the last time that you're up in the air and feeling this. Now, granted, by then my body was aching and I was ready to be done, but I'd had the preparation and I'd kind of had this whole experience as I was in the sport that I knew that there was this end date at retirement.
Interesting. And so had you you knew you were prepared for the end date, but had you looked at other career options before that, or it wasn't until you were done?
Yeah, no. Well, and the thing is I knew I wanted to stay in sport. My degree was in sports management, sports marketing. So I knew that my life was still, it was everything that I knew from a very young age, right? In gymnastics, we start training by 6, and we're in the gym a couple hours
I know.
a day, right?
I trained some athletes. Yeah. It's crazy.
So it's a different upbringing. And so I think by then I was ready. I had done my time kind of thing. But no, I wasn't prepared, and I didn't have that plan in place. I had graduated, I had come home, and I was about to take a job in Toronto. I was actually moving to Toronto to work in sports marketing.
Very cool.
Yes, I didn't end up in Toronto.
No, we all know that because we've all had the pleasure of seeing her on the CTV. So how did you end up at CTV?
So I literally went from being Leanne the gymnast to Leanne the TV girl. So, and I do attribute the success or the career, the 20-year career I had in television based on my experience as an athlete.
For sure.
But I had just graduated from UMass. I had just moved home. My mom has a big gymnastics school in the city, Corona Gym Club. At the time, they were celebrating their 25th anniversary. She just celebrated her 50th, by the way.
Congrats.
But it was her 25th anniversary.
That's wild. 50 years.
There was a lot of attention around it. There was this big party and this big gala, and so I sent out press releases. I knew how to do that. I had just graduated.
I don't know how to do a press release. Can you teach me?
Yeah, I did a lot of those. And so I sent things out to all of the TV stations and radio stations, and it so happened that I sent it to the time it was CHRO. And Ken Avrere, who was the sports anchor, ended up coming out to cover the event. And so my name was on the press release. So he just said, like, can you give me a rundown of what's happening here? Like, give me the rundown. Can you do it on camera? We talked a little bit. He told him a little bit my history. It's my mom's club. I was a gymnast. I just came home from school. Like, I went through the whole thing. And we did everything on camera. And then after we were done the interview, he gave me his boss's card, and he said, our station, it was a new station we had just started, our station's looking for a young female, university educated, former elite athlete to be our new sports anchor.
So it just fell right into place. Perfect.
I was on TV 5 days later.
That's amazing.
I canceled my trip out to Toronto. I said no to the job, and I started, and then I ended up being there for 20 years. So it was a fluke opportunity, but I think my athletic background, I mean, I had to learn 1,000 things about 1,000 sports in pressure situations, being live. Like, it was like I viewed every show as
like a competition.
Every performance, it was almost like present to the judges, go. And so I found that there was a lot of really unique things that you can use as an athlete that transfer into what you're going to be doing as a professional. And I really viewed it. You needed to be coachable. I needed to be coached. I needed to learn. I needed to train. I needed to do repetition. Like, everything that you needed to do as an athlete, I was able to transfer into this brand new career that had a competitive edge to it, had an excitement, had an adrenaline.
And you always had to be ahead of your competition, right?
I had to be ahead. I always wanted to have the lead story. I wanted to get to the story. I wanted to beat the other guy. Like, so the competitive edge stayed with me for a very long time, and a bit, and not on ego, because ego eventually plays a huge role in it. But I went from being like this captain of the gymnastics team at UMass, and there's a lot of attention in the States on sport, to then becoming the TV girl. That I didn't go through that transition of who am I. I just changed titles.
Yeah.
And I was very cognizant that I wasn't forced to go through what a lot of people struggle with because of the opportunity that I was given. But I was aware that I wasn't going through the being buried and kind of losing who I was. I pivoted.
And I love that she brings this up, because there's transitioning of life after sports. Sometimes it's a very seamless transition for people, as it was. In Lianne's story, I think her big transition was after CTV.
Was when I left. Yeah, so I had to go through, I think, what a lot of athletes go through immediately. I went through that after the 20 years of TV and stepping away from that role, and then going, who am I?
Yes.
And that was when that's when the real work started.
I'm very passionate about mental and emotional fitness, and really, it's one thing for a lot of people to see the accolades of what these athletes have in their lives. We aspire to be like them. They give us the determination and the drive, and we see what's possible, right, through them, but we don't see what happens behind closed doors. So when you left or made that decision to leave, and I know a lot of those times those feelings are visceral, because it's like this out-of-body experience.
Yeah.
You got sick. Not sick, but you.
Well, I did. So the trigger for me was the shingles, and it was understanding that my body was shutting down. Like, and by then I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning. I was hosting the morning show, and I was tired and my body was done. But in that recognition of that I was going to leave the job was I have been in a spotlight of some sort since I was very young, and I was about to step away from it into the unknown of not knowing where I was going to go or what I was prepared to do. I just knew that I needed to make the shift, and that's when I went through what I think I would have gone through 20 years prior.
For sure.
And that was dark, there was fear, there was like, who am I? There was, who do I represent, or what, it went through a lot, and I went back to the athletic background of visualization. I had used a lot of visualization as an athlete, and mine became a visualization of where did I see myself and how was I going to put myself in a position to see myself going through the steps of figuring things out, of learning new things, of developing, of being coached again. like I went through, it was just going to be a very different scenario.
And that's the beautiful thing about you. You're very coachable. Like you would coach yourself
I've read
too.
a lot of things that it's like, and being coachable is probably one of the best attributes an individual can have because it doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
You don't need a talent to do it. You need to just be open, take positive criticism. It's very difficult when it's like critical.
Yeah.
But when you have someone that's positive criticism and enabling you to be better and knowing that the shift and the changes you need to make are for the better, it'll affect everything in life, not just your sport, but I needed it in my new job, right? Like, so I really turned to visualization. We talk a lot about meditation and letting
journaling
go
and all that stuff.
and the monkey brain. And it was the monkey brain, and it was starting to read books on accepting the present and not thinking of the what if and the past, and I should have, I didn't. And so I literally sat in this fear and in this unknown. It's
a very uncomfortable space.
And it's an uncomfortable space, but when you come out of it, you're grateful for it, and then you're rejuvenated. And so I feel like listening to your TED Talk and doing all this stuff, like, what does it come back to? And it's trusting. I think for me, it's trusting you've done it once before. You have competed at this level. You have trained your body. You've trained your mind to do it, to say that you can do it again, just in a very different format. You're going to find that success again. You just have to accept that it's going to be in a different version of yourself. But I actually like sometimes you actually like the version better, you kind of go through that. But the one thing that I will say, and I've seen athletes who have been in that conditioning sport, like training, and who've gone the opposite way of like, I don't have to train, I'm going to eat what I want, and I think that's a massive thing, like, is that I still crave the chemical, like the endorphins of a workout, of being
serotonin,
fit.
all that stuff.
And so that was something that I was critical that I didn't lose.
Yeah, because I remember during the pandemic, you were doing those live workouts for people too. You built community around that. Yeah, you definitely have as much as you went through like the unknown, what I see is you're very good at self-leadership. Yes, there was the unknown, but you're amazing at self-leadership.
Well, and I like, if I'm doing it, I want to show that other people can do it.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and I think when you inspire others and you live and breathe it and you do it yourself.
Yeah.
You've gone through your transition of being an athlete and feeling lost or feeling like you've had a ton of hits.
Oh, yeah. Just a few.
You just had like a ton of hits, but like, what did you come back to?
Yeah.
To then kind of ground yourself to go, no, I've done this, I can do this again, because it's the repetition.
And I'm the same way in terms of, for skill sets, if you are someone who's struggling, I mean, introspection is the number one thing you could do, from whether it be meditation, journaling, visualization, reading. If you're feeling really shitty, just move your body. Let's just get some of those feel-good chemicals going through you. Go get a workout in. If you have to start with a walk, because a lot of people, when they don't know how to get started, it's like, just move your body. Yeah. You got to move your body. Your body.
Yeah, chemically, like my husband will say, if I haven't worked out
he can tell.
He can tell. He's like, he didn't work out today.
Watch out! Lianne is coming!
There's a bit. Yeah, I say it. Yeah.
I appreciate it. Well, if any final thoughts for any athlete, again, so you will go, a lot of us transition from an identity that we, a position or a role that we identify with, whether it be a career, whether it be a sport. There is sometimes of that period of that lost identity, and know that you are not alone if you are going through it. There's a community of people out here that would rally around you. Please reach out. But any final thoughts for anyone that's either going through that, or tips if they are athletes to bridge that gap to transitioning that you would leave them with?
Now that I have staff and people under me, and what do I look for in the qualities? So you're coming out of a sport, you're coming out of this opportunity, and you're already at a percentile of people who've never accomplished this thing. Like, I think people have to accept, like, if you played sport at this level, you are part of a very slim percentage, and that does separate you a little bit of what you've already experienced in life, and use that as your fuel to all of the rest of the success that you're going to have. But like, when you have been playing on a team sport, you're a better team player. You understand team building, you understand team concepts, and that there's going to be somebody who has a different strength than you, and what strengths do you bring to the table. So like, sometimes I think you need to look at the new job or this new opportunity as the same way you would look at the sport that you're playing on the field. Like, there's so many things that are so transferable. And I think your athletes need to understand that while they're stepping away from one aspect, you know, and most people don't get to be athletes their entire lives. And even if they are, like, gosh, as a tennis player, you're ancient by the time you're in your 30s. By football, like it's unrealistic to think that this is going to be, this is you the whole time, unless you're like 0.0001% of the population and sign a huge contract and you're set for life.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, most people are student athletes. They're like, it varies, but to understand that there's so much potential that you've already trained yourself to be able to do. You just have to
I think a lot of the blows really come to when they get injured, because it's the unexpected hit.
That's very true too.
It's like, or a life circumstance or an accident. I'll have some athletes on here that have had spinal cord injuries, and immediately it changes, right?
I can't, and that is a very different. I would have no advice other than to say, like, these people are just, they're warriors for surviving, and it's a very different format. Those things happen very differently. But for those that have had healthy careers, upcoming retirement, you know it's done. Just start the visualization process of transferring those skill sets to something else.
I love it. I love it. Well, you heard it from Ottawa's very own Lianne Laing. I appreciate your time being here. And we'll see you next time on Tiger Talk Thursday.
Do you do it 2 Thursdays too?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
We got Seattle Seahawks quarterback coach Kerry Joseph joining me, so it'll be a good one. So thank you for your time as always. And stay tuned for some more up and coming Tiger Talks. Have a great day, everyone.